Okay, well, good evening and welcome to the first Global Forever Fierce Day and to our very first live call. My name is Linda Williams. I'm a volunteer with Forever Fierce and I'll be your moderator this evening. Before we get started, I just wanted to go over a few housekeeping items as it relates to the webinar. For those of you who are logged in via your computer, we will be sharing some images with you. Right now, you should be seeing a page on Catherine's homepage. It says Forever Fierce Day. We expect the call to be about 30 minutes, but we may run a few minutes over because we'll be taking questions. If you have to jump off, feel free. We are recording the call and we will post it in the Forever Fierce Midlife Revolution Facebook group in the files section. We will have about 100 people on the call, and in order to keep us on time and on track, we have all the participants in muted mode. If you have a question, there's a way for you to raise your hand next to your name. And you can type in questions there, and if we have time, we'll take those questions. We did have people submit questions prior, so we will be going over those. And just to keep it real, this is the first time we're using this particular software, so I asked you to be patient. There could be some technical issues. At this point, I'm going to turn over to Catherine. Catherine Grace O'Connell is the founder of Forever Fierce. She's really the one who inspires us to challenge the perception the world has of women at midlife, and truly one of the most intelligent, generous, kind, and determined people I have ever met. So it's my pleasure to introduce Catherine.
Wow. Thank you so much, Linda. You have done such an amazing job organizing this. To keep it real, guys, I'm not a techie, so I'm so delighted to have Linda handling the back end. And welcome to our very first live call. And we're so delighted to have you here. And obviously even more delighted to have you part of Forever Fierce Day, our global celebration, and part of the midlife revolution. So what a day it's been for us. It truly takes a village, and a grassroots volunteer village at that, to make everything happen. We've been deeply humbled by the overwhelming support on social media around the world. Thank you so much to Jody Filigomo, our Fierce director, and the incredible team behind the scenes who have dedicated their most valuable resource, their time, to Forever Fierce, the midlife revolution. We'll talk a little bit later about how you guys can get involved. So where did the idea of Forever Fierce Day and launching a midlife revolution come from? It was just over a year ago that the idea to bring together 50 bloggers over the age of 50 on the 50th day of the year, February 19th, to create a collaborative, supportive community and to connect the women offline through our hearts and our stories. We were invisible, we were disconnected, and we were seen as not relevant by society. And we decided everyone had it all wrong. Midlife and beyond has never been so cool or so empowered. I called a few of my virtual friends, and before I knew it, they had hit solid ground in LA, and the Fierce 50 was born. We had no idea how this little idea could quickly turn into a grassroots movement designed to completely disrupt the perception of women at midlife and beyond. We view midlife as an experience. It's not an age. We have women of all ages in our community, as you can probably see. So where did the idea come to rename the group Forever Fierce? It actually came from younger women, Gen Xers who felt invisible and forgotten. We're all about inclusivity and being a true sisterhood, so we listened, and Forever Fierce was born. I love the word fierce, as to me, it simply means being true to who you are. Fierce isn't about strength or force. True power or fierceness is a letting go and a trusting, mostly in ourselves and maybe for the first time in our lives. It's the beautiful phoenix rising, as so many of us have found that happens organically at midlife. I don't take time to share too much of my personal story, but like so many women in the community, I've overcome a great deal of adversity with a lifetime of trauma and abuse starting at a very young age. I'm a proud me too. I was without a voice for 54 years, and now I live to inspire and empower through my personal story and journey. I almost lost my life just 3 years ago, and finding my voice was through my blog, and that was the key to saving my life. A blog is simply a form of creative expression, and I cannot wait to share our fierce sister, Michelle Fimon, who will be on right after this. And she's sharing her story of launching her blog, having been inspired by the women of Forever Fierce. Michelle had sent me a Facebook message that really stopped me in my tracks one night, and she told me that she had been up all night teaching herself how to launch a blog, and she had, was in some pretty difficult circumstances. So I was so deeply touched by this woman, and I cannot wait to bring Michelle on. So Michelle, at 53, she is no stranger to challenges and reinvention. Having gone through teen bullying, violent crime, domestic violence, and cancer, as well as poverty following ongoing health issues. But what makes her recent attempt to rise so different? She says it has to do with three things: redefining resilience, discovering the art of improv, and embracing what it means to be fierce at this point in her life. Please welcome our Forever Fierce sister, Michelle Fimon.
Hello, everyone. It's been wonderful today. I've been looking across social media. Forever Fierce 2018 is finally here, and just to see the definitions of what fierce means at midlife to women is so inspiring. And it's exciting because really it's not just words. They are depicting actual lives. And as you'll see shortly on the screen, there will be a collage that really represents my life as well. And there were low times, and then there were times that I mustered the strength to rise. And as you've heard, Catherine talks about the phoenix rising, and I tend to think of the hero's journey. It's made popular by Joseph Campbell, and you'll probably notice it because it's the theme in most fairy tales, and really what I've chosen to weave into my story tonight. Some of it feels a little heavy at times as I go through this, but it's precisely what makes it remarkable. Author F. Scott Fitzgerald is noted saying, "Show me a hero, and I'll write you a tragedy." But I really think it's Hemingway that seems to complete the thought when he quotes, "The world breaks everyone, and afterward, some are strong at the broken places." And that's what I hope to share tonight. For you see, as a little girl, I'd sit in my room reading fairy tales, drawn to the female characters who faced challenges which overpowered them. And yet they were victorious in the end. These were the smart girls with the kind hearts, and they were also the pretty ones who took the brunt of others' jealousy. I began living that storyline out in my final years of high school. For you see, my dreams were to one day move from Minnesota and live in New York City and work as a fashion editor. My journalism teacher had told me that I was a gifted writer, and she wanted me on the school newspaper staff. Of course, that's what every 15-year-old wants to hear. So you can imagine my surprise when the big reveal happened and my name wasn't one of them. Things like that happen. But nothing could prepare me for what my teacher's explanation would be. She had said that it was because I didn't fit in with the other students. Maybe if I wore jeans and sneakers to school instead of dressing up, my peers might be more accepting of me. I couldn't believe what I just heard. I reminded her that I worked at a women's clothing store right after school. I wore the clothing that I sold to people like her. That was my job. Why would it matter what I wore? This was really supposed to be about what I wrote. Recognizing her dilemma, my teacher decided to make it an exception and add an extra editor on one condition: that I would do all my work in a separate room away from the others and would communicate with them only through her. I kid you not, it took bullying to a whole new level that day. And I knew I needed to make a decision: gain experience and lose my dignity, or hold on to integrity and forfeit opportunity. Either way, I was being asked to compromise who I was. Well, after crying half the night, I got up for school the next day, and I put on a pair of high heels and a suit, and at the age of 16, I walked into the newsroom of our city paper and explained that I wanted to work as a journalist. Not only did they hire me as a reporter, but I would go on to produce a weekly team page for them and serve as editor of that. Needless to say, I declined the school position, leaving 8 editors, a journalism teacher, and the entire school to read my byline daily. I created my own column and called it Changing. It lasted a year, and then merely days before college started, I was stalked and stabbed. In the courtroom, my attacker said that I had everything and she had nothing, and that I didn't deserve to live. Subconsciously, that statement lodged inside of me, and I thought back to the school paper situation. I no longer wanted to be noticed. I wanted to get out of the spotlight, get lost in the crowd, and I figured it was safer to blend in. So I quit writing, I silenced my voice, and went to work in the hospitality industry for years. Hotels, resorts, restaurants, nightclubs. I literally disappeared from my past. I even spent some time in the company of celebrities, but I always stayed on the sideline, and in doing so, left my dreams further and further behind. At 40, however, I became a mother, and I wanted a new life, and I pursued the degree I desired before I was stabbed. I studied and worked hard, maintaining a 4.0 GPA, but as quickly as it started, it was over. I found a lump in my breast. I had cancer. I went into surgery terrified and came out with a double mastectomy. PTSD and depression engulfed me. I had a 3-year-old at home and was a single mother. The doctors told me I needed chemotherapy, and I had a decision to make, fight or quit. So I thought back to what I first did when I felt defeated all those years ago. And although I had to leave my high heels behind, I did clothe myself in a wardrobe of fierce determination and went to Mayo Clinic and endured cancer treatment. It was the worst time of my life. After 2 years, however, I began writing poetry as a means to heal. You couldn't keep me down. I applied for arts grants and envisioned myself authoring books. And just when it seemed that everything started to return to a new normal, the second cancer diagnosis came in. It was growing at the base of my throat, and this time the potential for silencing my voice became literal. And then I developed a blood clot in my jugular vein. Yeah, I'm the unlucky one, right? I was ready, honestly, though, to give up trying to reinvent myself. For each time that I did, death was at my door. But here's the thing. In the midst of my despair, as I was in bed and doing nothing, I kept reading about blogging. And I had no idea why, honestly, because most bloggers that I saw featured pretty things, and I was not feeling pretty. I was scarred and sick, and there were these displays of amazing food, and there were bloggers selling clothes I couldn't afford, and they had lifestyles that actually required getting out of bed, which I wasn't mastering. And then somehow I ended up on Catherine's website, and I discovered her Forever Fierce message that women in midlife can be raw, real, and vulnerable, while also being strong, wise, and compassionate. Those words woke me up out of a very deep sleep, and I remembered something from long ago. The fairy tale princesses that I used to read about as a little girl, they had each become a queen. Now, I'd never thought about what happened to them as they aged. When young, they'd been resilient, heroic, they lived through hard times, and actually, despite all the crazy stuff, they've had exciting lives. So, did they just sit there now, like I was, resolved to a life of nothing else? Did they wither away? No, they were timeless. And I realized so was I. For you see, the magic had always been in the story itself, not in the struggles, nor even in the accomplishments. I logically had equated fierce with fighting. You know, that quest to succeed, a battle against cancer, the survivor rhetoric. But what if I stopped striving and just decided to live fully with joy, right here and now, without waiting for my cure or for those pounds to drop off or a new career to materialize? I knew a secret. I could spin straw into gold. I'd proven that to myself time and time again. So what if I merely began where I was at with what I had right here in my house? If it had been good enough for Cinderella with a pumpkin and some mice, it was good enough for me too. You see, I'd learned over the years to improvise and not compromise. So what did I really want? In my heart, I wanted to share voices of survival and style, and I begin with my own. Catherine gave me that chance with some help from Linda too. And I recently spent 4 consecutive days, as Catherine mentioned, working round the clock to design a website. Now, this is me with 0 technical knowledge and on a disability income. I created my own little virtual stage called Alive at the Improv with the goal of launching it today on Forever Fierce Day in honor of all the women and men who've traveled a hero's journey and have risen beautifully from the ashes. And here is the irony, the happy ending, if you may. You see, sometimes the first step toward victory is actually in the surrender, that paradox where we let go and we finally accept the story as it unfolds, because that's the place where true miracles begin. We can only go up from there. You see, at 18, I envisioned myself working upon magazine pages, creating visuals, writing stories for women to read. And I had watched that dream slip away from me, thinking that it was forever gone. But how could I have known, 35 years later, that it would return in a new form, and I'd find myself amidst a community of writers and fashion bloggers and women whose influence reaches all across the globe. And to think that I would have just settled on New York City. Oh, that, my friends, is fierce.
Wow. Michelle, I can't even tell you. Thank you so much for sharing that story. And I can imagine you guys must be every bit as inspired and amazed as I am by the strength. And the truth is, that's the ultimate story of fierce reinvention. And every single one of you guys have, I'm sure, a fierce reinvention story to share. And we are, dying to hear your stories and dying to share your stories. And that's truly what this community is about. As Michelle said, I would imagine many of you might have had your own bullying experiences or possibly mean girls experiences in your life, or overcome, a lot of adversity. This place is a safe place for you. We designed it specifically so there's no mean girls, there's no judgment. This is a really safe zone for you guys to share stories. Like, certainly Michelle's is a dramatic story, and a dramatic story of powerful, reinvention and the ultimate phoenix rising. But everyone has a story. And I love that you shared, Michelle, that, I am not a techie. When I started this journey, I had never heard of Instagram. I didn't know what a caption was. I didn't know what a hashtag was. I had my daughter, was basically 1 foot out of the grave. And the truth was, finding my voice and finding the blog and creativity and connections and purpose and passion and joy is what literally turned my life around on a dime. And it's so interesting to see you come full circle, because I think so many women, we have kind of buried our dreams and we might not even be conscious of them. But if we kind of go back to who we were, you know, when we were children, and what were our dreams and what really lit our fire, we can really start finding ourselves. And launching a blog, it was one of my intentions of this campaign in Forever Fierce Day, was to bring down the boundaries between bloggers and women that haven't yet launched a blog or want to launch a blog, because it's simply a form of creative expression, and that's it. And I find it incredibly healing, and it's allowed me to connect with so many people. But it's one thing in this community, we want to be able to share. I know many women have sent Linda some questions, and one of our goals in this community is to share what we've learned. Like Michelle taught herself all by herself, and I get these incredible messages. But I know you guys have a lot of questions for us, and one of our biggest goals in this community is being interactive and hearing from you and pivoting according to what you need. So Linda, do you want to thank you again, Michelle? We could talk forever about your story. Clearly it's a powerful story, and you know, the lotus does rise from the mud, and you know, the beauty is really in the broken places. So, and making beauty out of that. So thank you so much for sharing your story. We are just so inspired by you, and every one of you guys on the call, I know, have a story to share, and we want to hear your stories. And Linda, we'd love to hear the questions, because we're here to serve you guys. We really want to, we want your feedback. We want to know what you want, because we literally have a team behind the scenes then that kind of runs to try to get these things done to serve you as best as we can.
So we have several questions that were written in during registration, and this would be, I think, for both Michelle and Catherine, if you'd like to answer. The first question is, what do you feel is the greatest power women in midlife are missing?
I'll take that one initially, Michelle, if that's okay with you. For me, what I found was my belief system. My belief system about myself had to change. You know, this whole Forever Fierce is really about shifting the perception out there of how people view midlife. But we can't really shift a perception out there until we shift our own perception. And many women have been disempowered through life experiences, or just, you know, midlife women in particular. We've got all this stuff projected at us, like you're not relevant, you should be invisible, you need to be 20-year-old and wrinkle feet. But no, we're here to disrupt that. So I think, for me, the play starts with disrupting my own belief system.
Michelle?
I agree with that completely, and I do believe that is the first step. For me, though, also, it has been finding a support system, you know, and in particular, other people that could relate somewhat to my story, not exactly the same story. That would be quite a feat to have the same journey that I've taken, but bits and pieces of it, and really having that place of non-judgment. I think that's important.
I think that's a great point, Michelle. And, you know, having a sisterhood and a community and connection. I know when I joined Instagram and this whole crazy world, I couldn't find anyone that looked like me. I couldn't find a community. And so I decided to create it. And believe me, guys, I didn't know anybody. I just started being really bold. My daughter had sent me a really inspirational story of a woman who every month decided to reach out and do 20 things way beyond like what she thought she could, you know, reaching messages of people that were, you know, celebrities or whatever. And she started having things happen. And I took that philosophy. And so that's what helped me change my belief system, was literally taking action and just going out there and doing it. And surrounding yourself with a sisterhood that believes in you and empowers you is really, really powerful.
And I'd like to just jump in on that one too. I think one of the things is that I hear a lot of women say, I can't learn that when it comes to technology. And I think that's really creating a barrier that's unnecessary. So I would like to see people really just, as Catherine's saying, just dive in, find somebody who'll help you. You can Google anything. You can learn anything online.
Google is your friend. Google's your best friend.
Your best friend, right.
And that does not mean that I don't take my computer and want to smash it 10 times a day, to be honest. But, you know, it's really true. Michelle's proved positive that you can teach yourself, because she did it with, you know, no income and as a single mom overcoming a lot of adversity. So you guys can do it. Trust me. If we can do it, you can do it.
Okay. Well, that leads to the next question. So Catherine, this is for you. Any tech tools or apps that you love that make your life easy?
Well, you know, I'm not a techie. I'm very open about that. But one thing that I do with Lyme disease, I had a lot of cognitive issues. And so I set alarms. You will be on the phone with me, Linda, and you'll hear while I'm Jody, you'll hear my alarm going off. I have to for my own time management because I have so many things, and in this virtual world, time can really blur and blend. And so I set alarms for every single appointment. I have my calendar, I have my alarm then set reminding me. Also, it's really important to disconnect and to slow down, even if it's only a few minutes a day. There are some incredible apps, really, really simple apps that you can download. Obviously, just go in your app store. But there's an app called Breathe, Breethe. Simple meditations, or Pure Mind. It's a little more mindfulness, you know, keeping you in the present moment. Or Calm. Just amazing apps that you guys can give yourself the gift of just a few minutes a day of quiet and silence. And then the only other thing, if I get asked a lot of questions about like editing. I'll be honest, I didn't even know if guys edited photos on social media. I knew magazines did it, but I had no idea people were editing their photos. There's a super fun app called Facetune, and Facetune almost gives you like Photoshop on your phone. So not that you guys need to go crazy with editing, but what it does, if you have a photo that you took and it looks like you couldn't possibly post it, I have seen bloggers take something that you would put in the trash and literally turn it into magazine quality that are just beautiful. So it's a really fun app to sort of teach yourself and fool around with.
Okay. All right, Catherine, this is for you. The next question is, what are you reading, books or blogs, or both?
Obviously for my business, I read, I have to read both, but I know a lot of people right now are pretty time crunched, so they don't always have time to go through somebody's blog. Obviously, we hope you do, especially in this community, because there's some incredibly inspirational blogs there. But I'm a book lover, and I am a hold it in the hand book lover. I used to play librarian when I was growing up, and I love having a book in my hands. So I know you know I sent you Brene Brown. I'm a huge Brene Brown fan. She has a new book called Braving the Wilderness, which is kind of like this Forever Fierce movement. What she talks about is someone really being brave enough to stand up against the tide, because, you know, not going with the peer pressure and really being true to yourself. And to me, that's the epitome of fear. So I highly recommend that book. When it comes to this demographic, kind of educating yourself, Joseph Coughlin and the longevity economy. Oh my God, you guys, I'm a research geek and I love being able to back up what I'm saying. So if you get that book, it will blow you away as to how crazy this world is on really getting it wrong about how powerful we are, and powerful we are from an economic perspective too. So I think, you know, he wrote an article that women over 50 are like it, and he tells you why, because we're really the CEOs of our own household. So it's a pretty cool book. Anything by Danielle Laporte, super inspiring. Met her in person, did lots of interviews, had her on my show. She is the real deal when it comes to this stuff. And then Cheryl Richardson wrote one recently. I'm a Cheryl Richardson fan and get her newsletter, Waking Up in Winter, which is really all about this sort of awakening at midlife. I love that book. And if you guys are looking for some letting go, David Hawkins, he's one of my, he passed away, but he's kind of like a Wayne Dyer. He's hilarious. And he also, his book, Letting Go in particular, I know I need to surrender and let go a lot. So his book really helps me with that.
Okay. Yeah, and by the way, I love that Brene Brown book. It's excellent.
It's fun, isn't it?
It is. She's brilliant.
Scream at Brene Brown to get her on the show and get her involved. She's so fabulous in this demographic.
All right, so the next question, several people wrote in, I would like to get involved. How can I do that?
I am so glad you asked that, because we would love nothing more than for you guys to get involved. There are lots of ways to get involved. The first way, which you can see, we've got a huge team behind the scenes here. Join the Sisterhood of Volunteers. We have made incredible friends on the back end. It's a lot of work, but it's also incredibly fulfilling and rewarding. And we do in-person events too. So we get together, you know, there's Jody Filligum, our fierce director right there. And Jody and I met in person last year at our Forever Fierce launch party, and we are hoping to do another one this summer. We've had requests from you guys to host some more in-person events so you guys can connect offline. So definitely join the Sisterhood of Volunteers. Reach out to Jody Filigomo at jody@jtouchofstyle.com. Her email is usually somewhere on the site, but you can also just tag her. And then number 2, engage, engage, engage. We have to be one of the most engaged communities on Facebook. If you guys go into the little insights, I mean, we're off the charts on engagement. So the women love to share and they love to be heard. So engage, 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 comment, like, share people's posts, because it's really powerful for a woman to be validated that way, and it just lights their fire. So those are really great ways. And then number 3, we're a really interactive community. We want to hear from you. We want to serve you. So give us feedback and ideas. We want to make this community about you and for you.
Okay, and then I see that it's 7:33, so we have time for one more question, and that was, this actually came from 4 people. Catherine, I've seen you with a photo of your Forever Fierce shirt. How can I get one?
Well, Jody's wearing a pretty cute one right there. So we have a shop that's on the blog. If you go to catherinegraceO.com, we will, hang on one second, guys. Right on the blog, there is the Forever Fierce shop. So go to catherinegraceO.com, the Forever Fierce shop, and we are actually going to be creating some exclusive, really exciting designs for the Forever Fierce community. Stay tuned, guys. They'll be available probably within the next couple of weeks. Really fun ones. But all the photos you see right now, those are women that have bought them on the shop, or volunteers that are wearing them proudly. And we would absolutely love you to join us. One of the coolest stories I think I've ever heard is the founder of Evernote. You guys probably know Evernote, and Evernote is like, don't forget, and puts up the little icon of their logo of their elephant. And how they went viral with Evernote was they started seeing people wearing those t-shirts around the world, and they were like, what is that? What is that? And that is how Evernote went viral. So we would love it for you guys to jump in, get your t-shirts, wear them proudly, disrupt the heck out of this midlife perception, because we know we are fierce, we are beautiful, and we are disruptors in the best possible way.
Okay, so that was the last question. Catherine, this is our final slide, if you want to just kind of sum it up.
Sure. Okay, number 1, join the Sisterhood of Volunteers. It is so fun and so fabulous, and we really get to know each other heart to heart. Number 2, engage, engage, engage. Comment, like, share posts. I think you know how it feels when somebody gives you positive feedback on a post and likes your post and shares your post. I know it makes me feel amazing. So definitely share in the Sisterhood. Give us your feedback and ideas. Linda recently put out a survey, and we are working to make sure that we are serving you according to what your needs are. Probably the number 1 thing we hear from you guys is we want to learn. So we are planning ideally a huge weekend in LA this summer that's going to have workshops, a huge celebration, potentially a Forever Fierce pop-up shop. We're bouncing these ideas right now as soon as we take a breath from the Forever Fierce Day celebration. So we want to make this community about you and for you, because that's all that matters to us.
Well, I think that's it for this evening. Thank you, everyone. We will be posting this in the file section of the Forever Fierce Facebook group if you'd like to download and listen. Thank you all for joining us, and look for invitations in the future. Catherine, just one last thing. Do you want to just let everybody know about the podcast tomorrow?
Sure. Yeah, you guys, we had such an exciting week last time. We are taking the podcast on the road for the very first time. So we hit the road. We went up to San Francisco and met our fierce sister, Carol Parker Walsh, and we did a live show at the Madison Reed corporate offices, which is all about love, and we had the ambassador of love herself there. And then we did a second show between Carol and I, really talking about Forever Fierce Day and the inspiration. So tomorrow, the first show with Amy Errett, CEO of Madison Reed, will be aired at 11 a.m. Pacific. And the second show with Carol Parker Walsh will be at 1. So we'd love for you guys to tune in, listen, share them. And this whole Forever Fierce show is really your voice, and we want to make it the best show possible. So we'd love to hear your comments, your feedback, who you want to see. Let's get this out there in a very big way, and let's get on the people that you really care to hear about.
Okay, well, that's it. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and we will see you next time. Good night.
Thanks. Cheers, beauties. Stay fierce, and thanks, Michelle. Take care.